Yo, what's up? Welcome back to the studio. Today I'm hanging out with my boy Chad. I met this guy, door-to-door salesman. He was selling solar at the time. Long story short, he now owns a solar company, and every now and again he pops by and likes to give his 2 cents on certain topics, and I love when he does that because I'm the naysayer. He is too fun to fuck with. So the guy's super smart. He's very knowledgeable. I mean, he's the CEO of a solar company, so he kind of has to deal with people all day, so he knows how to talk. He knows how to take the shit. So anyways, I think you're really going to like this. The episode today is it's going to be about science and possibly some religion, a little bit in between, and I hope that you enjoy the episode. Make sure that you subscribe, give us 5 stars, pass the episode along, please, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Shut up and sit down.
I'm sending one last text to my wife.
You're good. I just hit record, so
Right on.
you do your thing.
Well, dude, what's up?
What's up, man?
Thanks for having me in. I really
Dude,
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
Dude, it's always a pleasure. Every time
Yeah.
I've been here, it's been an awesome experience.
I have a blast, dude. You do have headphones around your neck. You're more than welcome
what
to
am
put
I
them on
doing?
your head.
Oh,
Yeah.
like I can actually hear.
It might actually sound a little better.
So that's what these are for.
It's all good. I always tell people,
Sorry.
put your headphones on, man. They're like, oh, yeah, I can hear you now. And I'm like, most of the time, because I hear myself on my headphones, it's a little quiet. When I speak, it's a little quieter just
Right.
because I tune it in loud enough to where I don't have to yell into the mic. I think it sounds a little better.
I just feel pretty stupid right now. I feel like
Why?
a football player who ran into the game with no helmet. That's what I feel like.
What?
And the referee's like, dude, go back to the sideline, get your freaking helmet on, and then come back.
So
What are you doing?
How so? Why is that?
Because I didn't throw on my headphones.
Oh, dude, you're totally good, man. Doesn't even
I'm going to do a
matter.
podcast. I'm going to turn the camera off and no microphone, so they'll just hear your side of the conversation. That's how I'm going to do this podcast.
Well, you crush every podcast that you're on with me. Just a heads up.
I don't know that that's me. I think it's more you, and I'm just along for the ride, mostly.
No way, dude. No, you are. People listen to me all the time. So, like, when I have a guest on and I see their numbers spike or I see, like, the consistency of downloads when they're a guest, to be honest with you, that tells me, at least, people like that individual and they come back to listen to him. So they do continuously follow my show. Doesn't mean they listen to all my shows, but when they see your name, you know, they definitely will download it.
I'll be expecting some royalties. This is This is paid, right?
This is paid. Oh my gosh, dude!
I can't believe
Some
that
people,
guy.
I can't believe
still
that
can't
guy.
believe that guy.
I can't believe that guy. He's not even a friend of mine.
Oh, man.
It was a public post, and Homeboy decided he was gonna just jump on and ask if I was gonna pay him. No,
That's like
go anywhere else that has this set.
I'm giving you a free platform, and you want me to pay you for it?
Yeah, sorry. That's what
on.
I told him. I was
Come
like,
on.
you know, as nice as I could.
Oh, you were nice as pie. You showed me the text.
I was not even professional. I was just nice. I was just like, nah, man, this is a free gig, period. This is if I'm talking to, like, you know, Google or Siri, if you're
Right,
Apple.
period, yeah.
Yeah.
Have
Period.
you ever done this? All right, I'm not even kidding. I left a
But
message once.
people typically pay me if they want to come into my studio and record music. So
Yeah, for sure.
And then he
For
comes
sure.
back with like, "Oh yeah, dude, no, I'd be totally cool. Here's the links." I'm super stoked for that guy. I think that's cool that he responded that way, and I appreciate it professionally, personally. But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny when he had opened up the conversation with, "Is this a paid gig?" Nah, dude.
How
Are you
much-
kidding me?
how much
Like,
money?
here's a photo of what I actually where I work. And I may be a hobbyist, but are you getting paid? Probably not. Maybe like 20, 30
He's like,
bucks.
well, if you're not going to give me money, can we at least cuddle or something afterwards? Is there something? Let me tell you the stupidest thing I ever did, because you mentioned that Siri dictation thing. One of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me, I left a message at my job. I was calling a customer, and I left a message And I forgot that I was on a voicemail. I thought I was doing a text, and so I left the message with full dictation. I was like, "Hey Joe, comma, this is Chad, period. How are you doing today, question mark. Hey man, comma, just wanted to make sure that you got my message, and halfway through I was like, oh my gosh, this is a voicemail. And I said that to him on the message. I was like, this is a voicemail. I'm so sorry. I am an idiot.
But that's probably one of the cooler voicemails the guy's ever got.
I don't know about that.
It's pretty sweet voice.
I'm sure he was like, hey, with his friends that night, listen to this idiot that called me on the phone today. I'm sure many people got a good laugh from that voicemail.
Probably.
Yeah. Oh, well. Laugh at my expense. What do you do?
Well, it's Chad, everybody.
What's up?
He's been on the show many times. You've been on, 3 shows already?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is number 4, I think.
Number 4. And they're always popular. I mentioned that earlier, and it's because you're a good personality. And you've got a lot of cool shit going for you.
Thanks, man.
Got a cool family. We caught up the other weekend at one of my family get-togethers, which was super random.
That was random.
That was super. I mean, I knew you knew.
Is it weird that I walked in and I was like a little nervous that there was all these people there I didn't know, and I saw you and I got super excited. I was like, "Oh, Tim's here! Tim,
yeah, it
oh,
makes you feel
somebody
a little
I
more
know.
comfortable.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it makes you feel a little more comfortable. And that's that. Yeah.
Then I sat uncomfortably close to you on the couch. I think our leg hair grazed each other's leg hair,
They
and then
interlocked.
it got weird.
Yeah, but that's acceptable nowadays.
I guess. Who's that guy? He does those. He ended up in a movie, but he went to like the University of Miami, I think, and he was this. He just started his own YouTube channel. Just a funny dude, and he would make videos of like stuff that sucks, and he would show a college kid pull like earbud headphones out of their backpack, and they're just in this like crazy knots, like the wire. And then he showed this one where 2 dudes are sitting next to each other, and it's hot outside, so they have shorts on, and he zooms in, and you see 2 leg hairs just barely touch, and that's happened to all of us, and you could like feel it, and you look over, you're like, ugh,
Yeah,
like my
it's
leg
like
hair
you're-
touched that dude's leg hair.
Or could it be electricity? Could it be that you're both positive charges,
There you go.
and you just snap
Little
at each other?
electrons.
Is that how it works? Like a positive and a negative attract,
Yeah.
and a positive and a positive, or a negative and negative, they're going to
Repel.
detract or repel.
Yeah.
Repel is probably a better word.
I don't know that you want to be asking me about my innate knowledge of physics and electricity. I'm probably not the most qualified guy to answer that question.
I could probably ask you about your vernacular, your vocab.
You may as well ask me like how the Falcon Heavy rocket that SpaceX just launched, how that works.
How about
I have about as much information on that as well. The rocket goes to the air,
goes up,
and then it's in the space, and it goes to the space station. And
but is there really anything out there? Do we really know if there's anybody out there?
Are we getting into conspiracy theory here?
You know what's crazy? NASA claimed that they believe space now is like, I want to say like 90% liquid.
Liquid?
Yeah, and if you look at it, and you look at it, and by it I mean the way that astronauts are trained, it's underwater.
Yes, but I thought that underwater was to simulate low weight
The gravity,
environments.
low gravity.
Or that's what I mean, low gravity environment. And, and then, having to move around
Sure.
where you can't, like, push off anything,
Sure.
That's what I thought it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because space is a vacuum, right? Except for where there's masses of...
Have you been underwater?
I've been underwater.
It's a fucking vacuum.
Well, I mean,
Let's
vacuum
be real.
meaning there's nothing there. I mean,
There's no
supposedly it's empty
oxygen
space.
in there.
Yeah.
Even in water, there's no oxygen. But they don't know how many people, like, when you're out there, you're in a suit. You don't know what's out there. You don't know if you're in, like, zero gravity. You don't know if you're underwater. Who knows? They could drug these astronauts up and throw them, like, underneath the ocean in some fucking crazy multi-billion dollar facility. And these people could be drugged up beyond belief, not knowing, thinking they get, we're just going to fucking, we're gonna give you vaccines for the moon. And the next thing you know, these people are like literally in the ocean, or they're in like some capsule thinking that they're being blasted to the stars, but they don't know.
I'll say
Who knows? We don't know.
I really appreciate Joe Rogan's whole approach to stuff like this. He calls himself an open-minded skeptic, and he says, "Look, if I'm not like innately educated on a subject, innately was the wrong word, but you know what I mean. If I'm not like very educated on a subject, then I'm not gonna throw around some heavy opinion on something that I don't really know a lot about." And he's like, "I'll listen to both sides of any argument, and then try to come to like logical conclusions." I really like that about Joe Rogan. So I mean, I guess I'd say my understanding is that space is a vacuum. That's what I was always taught, in school. Space is a vacuum, the vacuum of space.
Yeah.
And unless you have like a large gravitational field of some kind, you're not going to have matter attracted to it, like the elements. But what do I know? I'm not an astronaut.
But dude, let's be real. When we're talking about scientists who should know about space, every week they are changing theories. Every week they're challenging theories, and like it's all the time where you realize the majority of it, in my opinion, for somebody like me who actually follows it on different pages all the time, you realize science is kind of bullshit because...
No. Oh, that breaks my heart. I'm a science major.
Yeah, and hear me out.
You're breaking my heart, man.
Science is always changing, man.
Well, but that doesn't make it bullshit. I mean, the whole reason science changes is because as we learn new information, then we have to change our presuppositions. So, we do a test on a certain drug, for instance, antidepressants. This is a great example. Nobody really knows the mechanism by which antidepressants work. They just know that they work. So we can say scientifically, if you give this medication, most of the population will respond and it'll help them with depression. But they can't tell you how. But somebody will formulate an experiment someday in the future and they'll figure out how. And then they'll say, oh, actually, we can tweak this medication this way and this way, like the molecule, and it'll work better based on this new information. So if anything, the true scientific method is you have a hypothesis, which is like your best educated guess as to why or how something works. You come up with an experiment to test that hypothesis. It's called, you're supposed to try to falsify your hypothesis, meaning disprove yourself. A good scientist is always trying to disprove themselves. Right. Cocky, arrogant scientists are trying to prove themselves right, and that's not good science. So you do this experiment, and then you pull your data, and from that data you make conclusions. And if you test a hypothesis enough times and you have enough data and enough conclusions that all support the same hypothesis, over time, with hundreds or even thousands of different trials and experiments being done, it then becomes a theory. So theories in science actually hold like a lot of weight, and theories don't change that often. Hypotheses, they change quite often because they should. It's somebody going in saying, like with penicillin. Somebody figured out penicillin, which is a fungus, will inhibit bacterial growth. And then they say, well, here's how we think it's happening, but they don't really know. And then they formulate an experiment to try to figure it out. And then they find out they're wrong. So then they have to come up with a new hypothesis. Yeah. So that doesn't mean it's bullshit. That just means of all the fields of study, science is the most accepting of saying, if we don't know something, we won't claim we know it. And given new information, we are more than happy to change the conclusions that we've come to.
Sure.
Which I think is a pretty enlightened perspective, isn't it? It's better than those people that have this firm, emotional-based opinion and not fact-based. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second.
All right, hit me.
Fuck science.
Okay. You can't say that as you speak into a microphone with a GoPro that's streaming to the internet. What do you mean, fuck science?
Well, that's technology. Sure, technology is part science, but it's part art too. So, yeah. I mean, yeah. But we don't know what we don't know, and we are only told certain things. Let me give you an example. The sugar industry. It's known now that science, bullshit, that the sugar industry bought out the fucking oil industry. That's why we did the whole no-fat diets through the 80s and the 90s, and everybody got fat because they kept eating a bunch of carbs and a bunch of sugars. That's bullshit, and that was supposed to be science. That's number one.
Well,
number two,
that's
cholesterol.
That's corrupt science.
It's
though,
all
right?
that's science.
They got bought.
Science is corrupt, man.
Nah.
NASA is corrupt. You don't think NASA doesn't have photographs of aliens and like all kinds of crazy shit?
Dude,
they
yes.
literally
No, they absolutely
lost the original moon landing tapes. How do you copy over those? Like, how do you ruin that?
Yeah, I want to know what guy at
that's
NASA was like on a
bullshit.
real recorder.
That's not
like,
real science.
We need to record new stuff on this 1960s technology.
Yeah,
like,
the
what
tape
idiot?
the tape that says original moon landing. We're gonna go ahead and tape over that, or we're gonna lose like those tapes, or however it happened.
Yeah, okay.
Gone, dude. They don't have that bullshit. That's another type of science. Another one, cholesterol. We now know that cholesterol does not directly impact our actual cholesterol. So when you look at something on the back of like a label on any type of food and it says whatever the cholesterol is, throw a middle finger to it. Why? Because that's bullshit science. It's not real. It doesn't matter. It's now proven it doesn't do anything. Salt, another thing. Salt does not affect your heart. It does not. I mean, it's going to affect you no matter what if you're eating fucking pounds of salt every day, but you're not eating pounds of salt. It is literally bullshit science. Science is science. Yes, I get that. But to me, it's almost as believable as the Bible at this point. And the Bible is complete bullshit.
Well, all right, hold on though.
I take it with a grain of salt.
You're conflating though bad scientists with science.
No, I'm conflating entire fucking industries that tell us one thing or another, and we have to believe it. Have you seen the pyramid? I'm not getting upset. I'm getting excited.
Food
right?
pyramid, yeah.
Ever since that food pyramid
Totally
was
wrong,
introduced,
and it's totally wrong.
Obesity has inflated 300% within years of that. That's because the government and science will tell us that it's correct, and you can't negate it. But at the end of the day, yes, if I'm eating something that says fat-free, but it's full of carbs, I'm getting fat as fuck, chances are pretty good that the science is bullshit, and I'm not the problem. It's science is the problem. I'm not saying science is completely bullshit, but for the most part, for the entire part, I take science with a grain of salt, and I don't believe any fucking thing I say. It's just like the Bible to me at this point.
Okay, all right, hold on.
Stupid as that sounds.
Let me advocate for science here just for a minute. You're not wrong in what you're saying. You know, there's lots and lots of examples of corruption within our government and industries, and the way lobbying is done and how bills get passed. There's a lot of like good old boys club back alley deals getting done, right? And that's not science, right? That's just corrupt politicians or corrupt people trying to sell a certain tagline of information on a certain topic, like the food pyramid, for instance, to get a certain outcome that typically involves some kind of monetary benefit to those who are involved with the decision-making process. Mm-hmm. But for instance, science, we can't call science bullshit. I'm talking into a microphone right now. The reason this microphone exists is because of the scientific method. It works. This microphone works really well. Is this the best microphone that humanity can ever build? No, of course not. Because we'll learn new techniques and new engineering techniques that will allow us to build better and better, microphones in the future, or better cameras, or better cars.
I guess where I'm arguing is a theoretical science, like things that are theoretical. Like, this is theoretically correct. Like, this is the way it is. Okay, well.
And then you find out 10 years later it's wrong.
Yeah, like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like eggs. Let's throw eggs out here. 10 years ago, cholesterol, again, Eggs. They were like, don't eat eggs. Don't eat the egg yolks. You need to eat all the fucking egg whites that you need because it's going to give you everything. But if you eat the egg whites, it's bad for you. Guess what? Weight Watchers the other year was like, eggs literally have zero impact on your health. You can eat 100 fucking eggs a day. There are 0 points. That is science. So can I eat 100 eggs? Is that legit science? Could I eat 1,000,000 fucking eggs in a day if I wanted to? Because I just shovel eggs down my throat and it's not going to impact my health because science says it's not? Or should I go with the old method where science says I'm going to stroke the fuck out if I eat 10 eggs a day? I used to eat 12 eggs a day in football, man. Like 12 egg omelets all the time. No problems. Never had cholesterol issues. And I was an advocate for, hey, listen, if I go and I get my blood drawn, if I get tested, if I eat however I need to eat or whatever I need to do, and I come out on top, I think I'm doing okay. I don't have any cavities. I'm old. Science tells me, or like doctors tell me, like dentists, you need to brush your teeth twice a day. You need to floss your teeth once a day. I haven't flossed my teeth in like 6 months. The last time I brushed my teeth was like 2 days ago. I brushed my teeth twice a day. I don't brush my teeth twice a day. I brush my teeth maybe 5 to 7 days a week, once a day, maybe. And that's being super liberal. I have 0 cavities, never had gum disease, never had problems. I don't have any issues with my mouth, my gums, my teeth. Nothing. So
But
when
that's-
science tells me all the
anecdotal,
time,
though. That's
but
not-
science tells me all the time, you need to do this, this, and this because based on what we know, this, and this. No, I'm just gonna do what I do, and if it kind of sucks, I'll fucking figure it out. And guess what? I've made it this far in my life, and I haven't really had an issue.
Wait a minute. Okay, but are you discounting? I mean, I need to understand exactly what you're saying here because maybe I don't understand what you're saying. We can't discount science. I mean, penicillin saved untold
That's not science.
millions of
That's
lives.
not science.
No, that's exactly
That's
science.
a dude who left a piece of bread out, and it just happened to happen. That's not science. That was not
But
somebody
he
who
was-
went
he
through
was
and used
engaged-
any scientific research.
No, it was. He was
He
totally
was a
engaged
scientist, sure.
He was engaged in the scientific method. He wasn't trying to find something that would fight bacterial infections, but he stumbled upon it, which is how much of our science happens. But absolutely, that's science. You know, the science of antibiotics, the science of how bacteria.
That's a little different. Antibiotics, that's natural. That's not numerical. So when you're talking
Well, it's
something like
dosing is numerical, right? You got to dose it the right way. And
Sure. But the guy's not in the lab looking at zeros and ones trying to figure out how to prevent some type of a bacterial gut issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's not and even then, homeboy found a piece of bread with some blue shit growing on it, and he was like, let's see what that is. Let me eat it. And he figured it out. Like I'm saying, he probably didn't eat it. I don't know the whole story.
No, he had it
but
in
I mean, that's literally what it
Petri
was.
dish.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it was just like a piece of bread, and it just some blue stuff grew, and he got lucky. That's what happened.
But think how many examples we could go through of different medications or even chemotherapy or anti-AIDS drugs. I mean, look at the progress we've made on AIDS since the 80s.
But a lot of those, they don't attack the actual issue. They attack the symptoms. And they're only going to go for symptoms. Yeah, that is science. Don't get me wrong. I totally know that is science. But it's only science that's necessary when it comes to providing those dollars, for the shareholders.
What about like I've got a cell phone in my pocket. It's got GPS that communicates with a cell phone tower, which sends a signal to 3 or more satellites orbiting Earth in outer space that triangulates my position and it approximates my speed. It gives me step-by-step directions on where I'm going. It allows me to make phone calls, send pictures, to digitally
totally science
transform.
That's technology, though.
But technology and science are married. I mean, they're
married.
inseparable.
I think science is married within everything.
So here's my question. Like, I went through a couple of examples, and you're like, well, okay, yeah, that I see what you're saying. I think more what you have a hard time with is not so much science. And, forgive me, I'm advocating for science here. I was a science major in college. Mm-hmm. I think what you are
I'm a business major, so I'm like a whole different viewpoint.
Yeah, for sure. I think what you and most Americans are really upset about is not science. Nobody hates a scientist. It's politics and politicians and the way that the science gets skewed to support what a political party is trying to, some diatribe that they're trying to push on the people. That's what ticks everybody off. You mentioned some examples. All of those, there was the example, and I hope I don't strike any nerves here with anybody, but the anti-vaxxer movement, this whole movement was propagated by this doctor who did a scientific research paper, and he falsified his reports so that he could make a ton of money, and he did.
I watched a documentary on that guy.
He sold
so
books.
Much money.
He did speaking engagements. He got...
for the UK.
Oh, my gosh. This guy made so much money. And the scientific community was so outraged because other people, the whole thing
but
that
it wasn't
determines
just him.
The whole
there
thing
were
that
other doctors involved in this, though.
Oh, for sure,
but
yeah.
he was the guy in
it wasn't
charge overseeing the entire study.
We're
right?
talking about this very small group of people.
Yeah.
And the other doctors who were involved in the study, they gave their results. My understanding is they gave their results in good faith, and he skewed the results to show that I believe that what he came up with was that thimerosal has a single mercury atom in the middle as the binding molecule. And he was saying, so we're putting mercury into our children, and they're developing autism as a result. And totally unfounded. The mercury atom is, valence electrons. It bonds with all the other atoms around it using valence electrons, which is how all bonding is done. There's covalent bonds and ionic bonds, and anyway, I don't mean to get into all that, but
right.
It's never free in a human being's body. You don't just have free mercury floating around. It's always bound in this molecule. So the medical community came up with an alternative to thimerosal so that it doesn't have mercury in it, and they didn't need to. They just did it to appease the masses because there's so much hysteria surrounding this. And anyway, I don't mean to get off on too many details here, but the whole point of this story is this one guy who was unethical and didn't report his findings with integrity has altered American and world society in a very negative way and gave lots of people a bad taste in their mouth about science. But that would be like saying, I'm never going to drive a car again because some maniac drove his car into a crowd of people. Like, you can't say all cars are bad. It's just that one dude is bad. It's stereotyping. You can't make a blanket statement about science or scientists in general. Yeah, there's no matter what segment of the population you survey, there's always going to be good people and bad people, and it's on a spectrum. There's everything on that spectrum of integrity to total lack of integrity and everything in between. So I understand what you're saying, and I can sense the frustration in the general American public with many of the policies and things that have been handed down that have been shown to be demonstrably false, like you've mentioned. But you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You have to say, well, look, we drive cars, thank you, science. We have rockets, thank you, science. We have cameras and cell phones and microphones, and we have medical treatments that are heretofore unknown to the human world. Thank you, science. Isaac Newton, calculus and physics, and all these things have totally benefited society. And it's so easy to focus on the negative aspects of it and totally ignore the good aspects. But my call would be, let's do the opposite of that.
Sure.
Sorry, I went off a little bit there.
No, and I'm not trying to be anti-science. I'm just saying I take it with a grain of salt.
Sure.
Because we've been told so many things as we mature as human beings. And if you look back on the things that we were told even just 10 years ago, there's a lot of, I guess it's science in both ways, right? Because there's a lot of science that says that's like traditional science is bullshit. This is the actual science that supports it. So I guess like there's always multiple points of view as long is you can support your hypothesis with
Yeah, and
credible data.
That's what it all comes down to. So good
But
science.
data is still bullshit because I work in data, and I can tell
you can skew it.
the number $1 sales is not the number one unit sales, and vice versa. One is number one in one, and one is number two in the other. And one is number one in the other, and they're both going to be like 2 or 3 on the opposite side. And that's only because you play against people who have to differentiate themselves, regardless of what actually is being shown versus what is factual. The only reason I say that is because, I can ask 100 questions and I could present the data for 10 of those questions that support my hypothesis, and they're all factual. But 90 of those questions would negate everything that I just said. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
But you're not lying to somebody. You're just telling them it's all factual. This is the answer that was, this is the question that was asked, and this is the answer that was, given. And
depending on the context, you look at the answer, and it could be true or false.
Yeah, totally. That's why. Like a lot of times, that's how survey data works. And so it's hard to, in my perspective. With my perspective, it's very difficult to, I guess, to really, subscribe to any scientific data, knowing that there's other things, substantial data, that would probably negate those findings, but there's also other data that would negate those findings, because you take 100 questions, you can get 10 answers. You can get 10 stories out of it, and you can present the data however you want. You have infinite amount of material depending on how you want to tell that story, And so for me, it's like, yes, it's all factual, but what's really real and what's not,
So you're talking more about statistical analysis. You're not necessarily talking about the scientific method here. So
sure.
Scientific method, here's an example of what I mean. You believe in science pretty hardcore. You just don't know it.
I do believe in science, but at the end of the day, it's like you can definitely you can
skew results.
You can skew results.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I
totally.
100% acknowledge that, and that's why we need ethical people in science, because an ethical person doesn't let their ego get in the way. They don't let money get in the way. They just go to the right answer because it's the right answer.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you and I were standing on the edge of a cliff, you wouldn't be like, fuck science, gravity's bullshit, I'm jumping, I'll be fine. That there's lots and lots of testable, there's a very testable hypothesis that if you drop something off a cliff, it's going to fall down and it will accelerate towards Earth at 9.8 meters per second squared, right? We all know that. And the cool thing about science is the first time that doesn't happen, if somebody dropped a rock and it went up, which it wouldn't, I don't think that'll ever happen. But if it did, science would take a good, long, hard look at that and say, well, we need to revisit gravity.
Well, here's an example. There's a place in Oregon where things roll up instead of down.
On that hill?
No. Well, it's a house built on some property, and this guy built some log cabin back in the 1800s. And if you go into the house,
is it haunted or something?
No. You literally can go there. It's like a vortex, and you roll things down, and they come right back up to you. And
no,
really? No. Yeah,
that's
totally.
crazy.
Hold on. Let's look this up real quick.
Sounds crazy.
I forget what it's called. Being in Oregon, I've thought about just going and filming this stuff.
Yeah, we're right on the border here.
Oregon, everything's within 10 hours in Oregon, right? So, Oregon housed anti-gravity. I forget what it's called, the Mystery House or something. The Oregon Vortex and location of the House of Mystery. Yeah, this is wild, dog. This is legit.
All right, let's see this. Show me what we got here. What does it say?
What's crazy is if you stand on one side of the vortex versus the other side, you actually become taller or smaller. Isn't that wild?
you don't become taller or smaller. It's the optical illusion.
Yeah, but like whatever it is, it's that's not the only thing. But it's got like things that roll
crazy, isn't
up. What's it called? The House of Mystery. Let's look at a quick YouTube video or something.
That is kind of wild. I love stuff like that.
Oregon House of Mystery. And it's like, obviously, well, science doesn't fucking work in there. If these are the things that are going on in this spot.
Let's see what it says.
Videos.
Here's another thing. While that's loading up, that I'll say. This is also why peer-reviewed scientific journals are so important, because somebody will come to a conclusion.
Let me turn this down real quick.
Okay.
It's so loud.
It's just another roadside attraction,
Let's
right?
see this.
Not really. The Oregon Vortex and the House of Mystery in Gold Hill is a place with a very unique history that draws in visitors from around the world. And the attraction, the mysteries.
One of the more common.
Hold on, let me make this bigger. What just happened? Sorry, this video is no longer available after we just started watching it? What? So confused.
Science!
Yeah, science.
Mysteries.
One of the more common ones is the alien spacecraft idea, that this is actually a landing site buried in the center under here.
See, it goes up.
I've had people believe that this is a doorway. There's a portal in the center of the area, and I have a lot of people who believe this. This is a chakra point of the planet, that this is a convergence of the energy of the planet, and so this is actually, for a lot of people who visit,
It's kind of
more
cheesy
of a
video,
the
but
distortion
What
is
is the
you can't
Oregon
see
Vortex?
this.
The first
Let's see what
known
they say here.
human interactions with this place is one of the local tribes rode horses up the hill, and when they wouldn't enter the area, they named this the Forbidden Ground and then avoided the place from there on out.
Then in the 1850s, during
what
the
the
gold
fuck
rush,
do they have
They
like?
found a fair amount of gold. So they built a 10-stamp mill,
spider
an assay
webs.
office, and
They're trying to
started
make it
running
look all
in
scary.
They are.
It's just for the tourists.
So dumb.
so a mining engineer and physicist named John Lister was called in. He opened up the vortex to the public in 1930.
But we have a naturally occurring phenomena. The most notable
Watch this, this is
aspect of
crazy.
that is the fact that you will look taller and shorter one side of a level platform to another. See?
That's exactly level. So
Yeah.
how did I become taller than you?
I have no idea.
I kind of was doubting what was going on. I saw the pictures and so forth of it, and so I kind of thought, oh well, it's going to be just a touristy thing. But there are really phenomena that are unexplainable. You have to see
Science,
what,
dog.
what
This is so
they're
weird,
doing.
right?
It's amazing.
This is weird.
I was
I'm
wondering-
very
Look,
skeptical.
it goes
I'm
right back up.
I'm thinking this
And that's
is
a glass bottle.
I'm
Like, there's no way.
So we're trying to
Well, you
think of
can't
all
get.
weird
Where's the
stories.
magnet for glass?
I'm thinking this is more optical illusion than anything
The
else,
ball
but
was rolling up.
that's just me being a skeptic.
Have you ever seen anything like that before?
The change of the sizes of the people. I mean, you could literally almost see it. It was amazing.
I think it happens because
Maybe.
I really have no idea.
Maybe.
There are a lot of theories as
She's
to
kinda hot,
why
though.
things happen the way they do here in
She
the
is hot.
vortex. But right now, I'm mystified. It's something that I'm leaving with more questions than when I first got here. All I do know is
I'm hot.
Go
I
get
got-
Mythbusters. Where
I
are
got
they?
I don't
Great
know
teeth.
anything. That's why it's the house of mystery. So I guess you just have to come and see it for yourself because
Another reason for you to go to Oregon. Right
Yeah.
there.
Totally. Looks cool though.
Go find her.
That's not the only place though. There's so many different places just like that around, even the U.S. But yeah. Let me take a quick break real quick. We're only 35 minutes in, so
All right, yeah, for sure.
37 minutes in, and then we'll be right back.